Hello and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. My name is Ian Croll and today we are live at 12 p.m. Streaming live on the Royal Blue YouTube channel and the Echoes Everton FC Facebook page. I'm your host Ian Croll, and for today's show I'm joined by Chris Beesley, Paul Wheelock and Gav Buckland. Guys, how are we all doing? Chris, did you have a good weekend? Obviously, Forest win, back up there now after that. Manchester United defeat a fantastic victory for Everton at the City Ground.
Yeah, myself and Joe Thomas were obviously there at the City Ground, and it really was very important given the results that came before it. But yeah, it was a terrific, I thought, controlled display, and I'm sure we'll talk much about that in the coming minutes.
Fantastic stuff. And Chris, just before we get going into the agenda, just to let our live audience know, you've got a bit of a prize giveaway.
Yeah.
You know more about that than me, so just let us know what's going on for people who are able to comment in the comments section.
Yeah, it's open to anyone who wants to come into the comment section, and anyone who's capable of actually picking up this prize from the Echo office. In my job, following Everton home and away, get to collect lots of programmes there. So it's a collection, I think I've counted them up. There's 36 programmes from the last couple of seasons or so. So given that programmes going all the way up to Forest there, the latest one on Saturday, home and away, probably worth over £100 out of I bought them all individually. So if anyone fancies that, some Everton programmes, home and away, last couple of seasons, just put your name down in the comments section, and you'll be considered for that prize, as long as you can come and collect them from the Echo office.
Amazing stuff. Okay, so on the agenda today then, we've obviously got the Forest reaction, fantastic win. We're going to look at individual performances, specifically Beto, Jack Harrison and James Garner's performance. We're also going to take a little look and delve into some referee and VAR decisions during our game. The FA Cup draw, of course, happened over the weekend, the third round draw, difficult tie for Everton away to Crystal Palace. We're also going to discuss one incident from the Premier League this weekend, unrelated to the Everton game. I haven't told the lads what it is, but I just thought it'd be interesting to throw a curveball in. And there's plenty more as well to get through. So we've got roughly an hour. Please also submit your questions to the guys. I will try and get through as many as possible. Say we've got an hour, but we've got a lot on the agenda, but we'll try and get them questions into the guys and see if they can answer them. But there is literally only one place to start, and that's with another special away win, 3 in a row now, 6 in all competitions. Gav, let's start with you. Can we play away every week?
Or more specifically, can we play away teams not in the top 6 every week is probably the more pertinent question, isn't it? Just having a look before we came on, and I think since Dyche has come, we've played 12 teams who are not in the top 6 away from home, and we've won 5, drew 6, lost 1 of those games. So we said that, and the game we lost, by the way, was Aston Villa at the start of the season. They'd lost the opening game, hadn't they, against Newcastle, so they're not a team that's outside the top 6 normally. We spoke about this on Friday, didn't we, Chris? That we've got a style of play away from home against the teams that are not in the elite that we're comfortable with. Everybody knows the role, and it's just a case of rinse and repeat, wasn't it? On Saturday, Forest seemed the typical opponent that we've done well against, and the game panned exactly as I foresaw it, really, because it was pretty much the same as what most other away games have been for Everton this season, apart from Liverpool. It would be nice, but that's the $64,000 question, isn't it, Ian? Is we need to replicate some of that at home, because you can only sustain your away form so long. At some point, you're going to stop winning away, and that's when you need to start winning at home. So it was a great win. So,
Paul, go on, Gav. Sorry, I thought you'd finished there.
I was going to say it was a great win. I was going to talk about it.
It really was, and it was a much-needed win, certainly. Maybe a little bit unexpected after the United game, but it's not really unexpected way our away form is. But, I mean, Paul, it's not pretty at this moment in time, but who cares?
Oh, no, not whatsoever. It wouldn't have bothered me playing, it's not ugly football, but it's at times it can be. it's a way, as Gav was saying there, it's a style of play that is reaping rewards for us at the moment. But after Everton's form over the last couple of seasons, maybe going back even further than that, just to be winning away from home is a huge bonus. I think we've won 4 this season when we hadn't won as many as that, or more than that in the previous 2 seasons combined. But given the position that the team and the club has been put in by the independent commission and the 10-point deduction, means we'll take wins from whatever way we can get them at the moment. So I thought it was a huge one, really. Given the decision to deduct the club those points, I think we were desperate to get that first one. I don't know how you guys felt in the Manchester United game. It was a very strange atmosphere for me personally, because it was the kind of realization that we could lose. We should be able to lose this game without the pressure that came with it. We've been on a good run leading up to that United game, and a lot of the times we will lose to United. It wasn't a nice kind of feeling in the ground. So to get off the mark, and as I think Joe said in his report, that the fight back starts here. It was it was a great win. Just to echo what Chris and Gav said, brilliant win for the team.
I was gonna ask this question a bit later on in the pod, Paul, but I'll just come on to you now because you kind of touched on it. With the United game, there was obviously a lot of anticipation in what was going to go on off the field, but a lot of pressure kind of on the day because Luton had won and Bournemouth had won totally. Well, certainly the Luton win was certainly unexpected. Did that pile pressure on Everton then after those victories for the 2 teams down there in the relegation zone with us?
And I certainly felt it as a fan. As I said, I was quite edgy. I'm not really too edgy when I go to Everton games, because there's only so much we can do. But I was quite edgy, I was edgy in the lead up to it, just because in the back of my mind, the kind of overwhelming kind of reaction to the points deduction from, I think I said on the last podcast, so it's on from pundits we're going to be safe, you'll be fine, stay up, don't worry about it, almost like brushing it under the carpet. And I was just worried what would happen. If there was a result like Luton got against Crystal Palace and then we were to lose to United, I felt it was really important to win that game to maybe carry on the momentum. So I wasn't as confident going into this Forest game, but all credit to Sean Dyche and the players for digging out this result. And to be fair to Dyche, he said it after the United game, you look back and in that first half, we were behind 1-0, but we had enough chances to win the game. It's a bit of the story of the season, isn't it, so far at home? But I felt it was just huge, on Saturday for me personally, and I know some of my friends were the same, that to show that, the players are clearly being affected by it. They must be talking about it. It must have hit them. But, certainly the performance and the win on Saturday does just throw away some of those doubts for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Chris, why do we seem better suited to playing away from home rather than at home? The results are there for all to see. It's a weird one.
Maybe it's something to do with just sitting back and not being always on the front foot. There's an expectation at Goodison. I hope that's not the case because, as Gav said, your away form isn't going to be maintained realistically over a season. You've got to sort of have your bread and butter from your home results. But that's the way it is panned out at the moment. In fact, Gav, Joe, and myself, we all went for 2-1. We all sort of had a similar idea about the way it was going to go, but perhaps we should have been cannier and gone with 1-0 because I think it's possibly, Gav, think out of Dyche's 10 wins now, 6 have been 1-0. So maybe we should have saw that one coming. But like you said, Gav, it really was set up for an archetypal Dyche away win for Everton. I think considering all that had gone on beforehand. Again, we talk about other results with Burnley thrashing Sheffield United 5-0. That meant obviously Everton went into the game rock bottom of the table. I mean, that must have had an impact on the Everton players. But it wasn't a smash and grab. It wasn't like they stole the points. I know it was a close game and, it was a stalemate for a long time. But Everton, I always thought, looked comfortable, kind of kept Forest at arm's length. And it was only once, Forest were really pushing in those last 5 minutes or so that John Pickford had to pull out those 2 big saves. I thought they looked accomplished and, again, making a mockery of their league position after these 10 points being deducted. You could see that this was a team who looked like they were, I won't say head and shoulders above Forest, but certainly the more accomplished outfit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gav, in a matter of speaking, for Everton terms, we're absolutely flying, aren't we? But obviously, in another frustrating reality, we're kind of not because of our league standing. So, just away from that Forest game for a sec, how do you just assess Everton's, current predicament? Really good form, over the past 6 to 8 weeks, but still in the relegation zone. It's a difficult one to comprehend, really.
Yeah, I think it's well-known fact we'll be in the top half of thereabouts before Chelsea won. Would be in the top half of the table on Saturday night. Are we in a predicament? I'm not so sure about that. I think what we know is that the players are good enough to get us out of it. We've got a few tough home games coming up, but I think the games that we can get points from, certainly. So yeah, I think that the good thing for me is since the 10-point deduction, we played reasonably okay against Manchester United, and we played well enough against Nottingham Forest, and I think fully deserved the 3 points. So I don't really see us in a predicament at the moment. I think that might not be the case if we lose a few home games between now and Christmas. We've got a tough game at Spurs, haven't we? So yeah, I think I'd be more uncomfortable, Ian, if we weren't winning games, really. But we've been, as you say, one of the form teams in the country over the last 6 or 7 Premier League games, aren't we? So that's what I take comfort in, and I think if we carry on that, I think we'll be okay, irrespective of any points deduction. To be honest with you, so I'm sitting pretty comfortably. The only thing, contractually obliged though to say, we need to stay clear of injuries, because that's the point, isn't it? You see the bench again on Saturday, and there's not a lot there, is it? I think one of the reasons why we've done well, especially away from home, is we've had a settled team, haven't we? And the reason why we've had a settled team is we can only select about, with all due respect, only select about 12 or 13 players on the match day, can we, who we know can do a job for us. Once injuries and suspensions hit and other absences, it may be a slightly different story. But for the moment, I think we're taking over nicely, and we've got a couple of home games that I think we can get something from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we'll come on to individual performances, specifically Beto, who came in for an injured Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So that's next on the agenda. But Paul, Jordan Pickford was interviewed after the game and believes Everton have turned the corner now, just because of that 1-0 win. But like I say, we've already stated on this podcast that Everton's form has been relatively really good. And do you not think we turned a corner a few weeks back under Dyche, or is this the moment where, after the 10-point deduction, Everton have finally thought, right, we've turned the corner here, we know what we're doing, and we can get back up the table?
Yeah, I think we turned the corner probably from those first 3 or 4 games of the season, the terrible loss at Villa, and then the hiccups at home against Fulham, Wolves, and maybe Arsenal. I think we started to turn the corner from Brentford onwards, didn't we, when we won 3-1 away? I think, as Gav rightly said there, the form over the last 6, we've won 3, drawn 1, lost 2, probably over the last 10, it's even better than that. So I think it's not a surprise that we would go to Forest. It was like what I came back to earlier. I think it will just be, if Pickford was talking about it, it's just the first points on the board again, isn't it? It's almost like, I think Sean Dyche said it, he said, like, we almost have to go again now. Even though before those points deduction, we were looking at probably trying to finish, top of the lower half or even mid-table. I think, but if he's talking about more away form, yeah, he's 100% right now. I can't remember being more confident going to those kind of teams. I think Gav said it earlier about the games he's lost away from home. I think if you look at where they've come to, I'm pretty sure it's only at the big venues, isn't it? Villa Park, Anfield, Old Trafford, probably off the top of my head, a few others. It feels like we can go to most teams now, and with that game plan and with that style of football, and pick up results. And we're just looking at the fixtures then, and you look at our away games, we've obviously got that difficult one at Tottenham just before Christmas, but the ones around that are Burnley away, which is obviously going to be a massive game, given that they look like they're picking up a little bit now. And then before New Year, there's Wolves, and then obviously that Palace tie in the FA Cup. So even though we do need to sort our home form out, no question about that, but it does give you that confidence now that we can go away from home and pick up points. But yeah, it was a good interview with Pickford. Chris did it, didn't you, Chris? Yeah. And it was nice to hear him speaking confidently of all the players. Really been really impressed by the kind of what they've said in the wake of the points deduction. It obviously comes from the top with Sean Dyche, but and the backing up the words with actions. More importantly, it's not sound bites. We played well against Manchester United. Should have probably been levelled before they got the second goal, and then great win on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, to individual performances then, main striker Dominic Calvert-Lewin wasn't fit, but thankfully we've got, a striker that seems capable enough to lead the line, although seemingly a little bit rusty against Forest. But he still, again, he wasn't the best, but he still gave Forest a few problems. How did you assess his performance?
Yeah, it's been tough for Beto. I mean, he came in, didn't he? Biggest cash signing of the summer, almost 26 million. I think the good thing is he's a like-for-like replacement for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which Neil Maupay was anything but. Maupay, of course, doing the Blues a favour at the weekend with his goal. But yeah, I think he's burnt his bridges there, although he's still officially an Everton player. I mean, Brentford have an option to buy. Yeah, Beto, came in, didn't he? Hit the ground running with his goal at Doncaster Rovers on his debut, just 24 hours after signing. But obviously, he's found things much tougher in the Premier League against top flight opposition. Again, we saw he's such a good runner. We had that. I think there was that one when I think Decore overhit a pass and he closed it down, won a throw in off Aurier, the right back. There's plenty about him to cause opposition defences problems. But I think he just needs to get that first Premier League goal. Hopefully, once he gets that, it'll come sooner rather than later. That'll be like a big weight off his shoulders. He had that great chance, of course. He probably should have scored. The Forest keeper dropped it under a chance from McNeil, and it fell nicely to him on the edge of the area. And he just had a bit more composure. That should have been 1-0. But it was interesting because when I was watching the warm-ups before the game, all the other sort of attacking the midfield players for Everton, they were all taking it in turns to do shooting drills on like a temporary goalpost on the corner of the pitch. Whereas Beto was all on his own in the middle on the main goal, and he was like having lots of shots in there. So they're obviously trying to get his eye in, as it were, and like you say, get rid of that rustiness for someone who's not started. Because we've got to remember, fortunately, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's been able to start the previous 9 games in a row, so that's probably his longest run for a third old time. But yeah, there's certainly something about Beto, and so you would hope so, given the size of his transfer fee at a time when Everton haven't got a lot to spend, and he's somebody who's hit back double figures in back-to-back seasons in Italy. So he's obviously got something about him. I think he just needs to get off the mark once he gets that first Premier League goal, and there's plenty of opportunities for that, I guess, with the busy festive schedule coming up. Hopefully he'll take off after there. But yeah, then still very much a work in progress.
Gav, he very much looks like to me he's just trying too hard. I mean, Chris has just touched on there. He's been very successful in the Italian league, and he's obviously come over to the Premier League. Different style, different pace, different everything really. And he's come in at a time when Calvert-Lewin is back in the team, and he's clearly the better and number 1 striker. So you can tell when something doesn't go right for him that the frustration is there. Is he just kind of got to slow down a little bit and not get as frustrated when things don't go his way?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. And he strikes me. He wears his heart on the sleeve, doesn't he, a little bit? And I think that while that's appealing to supporters on the pitch, that can work against you, can't you? You become frustrated, you become over anxious, and you end up not doing yourself justice, and you probably run round a little bit like a headless chicken on occasions. And I think you can say that about him. When sometimes you've just got to pick and choose when to go. And I thought on Saturday he was okay. I caveat that by saying as well that it must be difficult, especially the way we play. If you've not played for a while, coming into the team straight away, he's not had a lot of minutes, has he? Really over the last month or so since Calvert-Lewin's come back. And I think it's on a freezing cold Saturday evening is maybe not the best place to try and get yourself back into the swing of things. And I think that shows. I think it was okay, not brilliant. I can see what he was trying to do with the chance. Really, he's trying to side foot into the top left-hand corner, but maybe something like that. He's just crying out, just shoot it at the target and hope for the best. But yeah, he was all right. He worked hard. What you say, he occupied the opposition defence, which is short-handed. Probably means he probably could have done a little bit better when he had the ball. But he was okay. And we won, didn't we? So you can't complain. but I think he needs to improve with the ball a bit. And I think his first touch certainly should be looked at. He needs to get that right.
Yeah, absolutely no complaints. But Paul, it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like he clearly needs games, he clearly needs minutes, but is he going to push Dominic Calvert-Lewin out the team? And Dyche does really seem not to be wanting to play both of them together, because we've obviously got a system, we've got a style that is clearly working. So how does he get in that team? I suppose, is it a case of Calvert-Lewin getting injured again?
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. I think we've seen in that second half against Luton that if we're going to play two up front, it needs a lot of work. And obviously, taking Croll out of that position between midfield and attack, he's huge for us, isn't he? I think he's probably been arguably the most influential player for Everton since Sean Dyche came in. So it's very difficult to envisage that Sean Dyche will change the system if the core is fit and available for certainly the league games. He got a bit of a rest against Burnley in the League Cup, didn't he? So it's a difficult one for Beto. Like I quite like him. Maybe it's the old saying, like, God loves to try it, and he's certainly trying. There's no question about that. I think it's fair to say he looked pretty raw. And the chance he had on Saturday proved that, you could see, as Gav said, what he was trying to do with the side foot, but he needs to be tucking those away. But understandably, you can tell he's a bit anxious in front of goal, and you could see after the Burnley game, when he set the goal up for Ashley Young, how relieved he looked that he actually made a contribution to a goal. And he also spoke a lot to me about how the players celebrated with him after setting up that goal. So it's difficult. It's just ideally he's going to be on the bench for a good while, because I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's clearly a step up, and there's just no getting away from that. But as Chris rightly said, it's hard to get another Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the bench. So when he's not fit or when he needs a rest, I think Beto's a good replacement. He clearly needs to score, though. But I've got no complaints, certainly not when we've won, and I think he did. We laugh a bit that he did occupy the centre backs, but he does. There's no question about his efforts. There's no question about his physicality and his pace. It's just that kind of that clinical touch that he's not shown yet, apart from that goal against Doncaster. But no complaints. I imagine he'll get more game time between now and Christmas, because even though it sounds good over Dominic Calvert-Lewin in terms of the games coming up this weekend, no doubt he will need rest in between now and the new year. So he'll get plenty of other chances, and hopefully he'll get that goal.
Yeah, let's hope so. Chris, Jack Harrison then, from my point of view, didn't have the greatest game, a little bit sloppy in possession, a little bit lightweight, poor final ball. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh, but he did put the cross in. Yeah. That resulted in the goal. So we can be thankful for that. But just your assessment on his performance and maybe overall performance, or to a start of his Everton career as well.
Yeah, I think I'd go along with you there, Ian. A very good assessment, because he did labour for a long time. You can see he gives the side a certain degree of balance, I think, with obviously McNeil on the other side. I think part of his problem has been that we've got Ashley Young behind him again, and obviously there was question marks. A lot of people thought Ashley Young might have been dropped for this one after he struggled against Manchester United. But he certainly, if Nathan Patterson was up there, you'd imagine Patterson be overlapping a lot more and sort of helping Harrison out there. Whereas, as much as we know what Ashley Young can bring to the side, he is 38 years of age, and he's, certainly the oldest outfield player at Everton now, and one of the oldest they've ever had. So, yeah, I don't think that particularly helps Harrison. But, yeah, ultimately he's got the assist again. He's put the cross in, like you say. It was a difficult evening for him for long periods. He wasn't getting much joy. Not always been able to sort of, because we know he can cross a ball with great quality if he gets the opportunity. I think there was one in the first half. He sort of shanked into the stands, totally mishit it. So that was disappointing. But, yeah, come off the hour, he's the one. It was a lovely interchange of passes. Was it him and Idrissa Gueye? Obviously, after that, I mean, Jordan Pickford joked with me. I said to him, he started the move for the goal, and he said, "Well, Tarky's head's a big enough target." It was actually Branthwaite, wasn't it, who got to it? Who got that, and then the interchange of passes with Harrison, Gueye, and the great cross to his fellow winger. So I suppose ultimately, as a winger, he's going to say, "Well, I've got my assist, job done." That's a tick for the box. But yeah, It was a difficult afternoon for him for long periods, but I mean, ultimately he delivered that, so it's vindicated. But I still would like to see a lot more from him because we know what he's capable of. And that incredible goal that he scored against Bournemouth, I don't think there's many other players in the Everton squad who would be capable of scoring that goal. So he's got it in his locker. We'd just like to see a little bit more than that.
Yeah, I mean, plenty more of those goals wouldn't go amiss, to be honest. I mean, Gav, it seems to me that Dyche likes his hard work and attributes maybe over, what little, football and quality he's got. Again, that might sound harsh, but he's getting in the team regularly now because he does seem to work hard and track back. And, that right-hand side does seem to be a little bit weak for Everton, especially with Ashley Young down in right back. But is there any assessment that you would give on Jack Harrison?
I think we're giving it. I think he works hard and he's, let's say, consistency. He's not going to shy away from stuff, isn't he? You're going to get a shift out of him every game. I think he's a bit hamstrung that Ashley Young as a full back. He's not going to, he's not going to give you help. He's not going to bomb outside you, and take up defenders' attention. So, a number of times, especially at home, where Harrison's got the ball, he's surrounded by 2 or 3 players. That's not going to help him. I think also as well, I think he has to, probably because of Young, has struggled a little bit. He had to play a lot more deeper on occasions. And so he's had an awkward start, hasn't he? But at the same time, he's worked hard. And what you want is, all you want is just a little bit, something to affect the game, don't you? And you saw that on Saturday. And he worked hard on Saturday, like he's done in most games. But how many times have we, in the last couple of years, have we scored a goal like that, where we've actually opened up the opposition defence, got round the back? Not many times, give and go with it. It's gone a guy. And we've not seen that enough by any Everton team over the last 2 or 3 years, certainly since we come out of COVID. And that was great to see, and all credit to him. And he shut the cross up well, and we scored the goal. And that's what you want. As long as you can work hard. Quite happy to see people work hard, but you also want to see him to do something creative in that role. And he saw that on Saturday. It might only happen once or twice a game, especially the way we set up. But he did that on Saturday, and that was the difference really between drawing and winning the game. So I'm okay with Harrison, but he could do with somebody who's a little bit more mobile and a little bit more agile than Young playing behind him. To be fair, but yeah, I'm okay with him so far. And that's why Dyche brought him to work hard, hasn't he? Primarily, and offer a little bit of quality in the final third.
If only we had someone in the squad who could play like that at right back.
well, we can talk about Nathan Patterson all day long, couldn't we? That's a separate part. But he is a little bit hamstrung, isn't he, Harrison? I think with Young behind him. And on the opposite flank, you can see where Mikalenko's getting a little bit more confident going forward. That affects McNeil, doesn't it? I think McNeil looks a bit better player for it. But yeah, they don't mind as long as he produces bits like that in on every game. I'll be more than content.
Well, Chris, I'm going to read out a comment here from the Royal Blue YouTube channel, which kind of maybe validates your little comment there. So, Two Wheel Lucas has said or asked, can you comment as to why direct questions don't seem to be asked in the press conference with Sean Dyche? Such as, quote, why are you overlooking both Patterson and now Coleman in favour of Young? You go to the press conferences quite regularly. Yeah. So is that the case, or is that wide of the mark?
Yeah. Well, I think Joe Thomas has explained earlier this season. There's a difference between what we see on the live feed with Sean Dyche, and that's not the actual newspaper section. So to be fair to my newspaper colleagues, what you see on the TV is Sky Sports questions and a few more outlets like the Press Association, maybe Radio Merseyside. When he actually speaks to ourselves at the Echo and the other and the national newspapers, that's a separate section called the embargoed section, and that's not actually recorded. So he might not be seeing that on what we call the top table that everyone else sees, but I'm sure he's after, I know I've been at a press conference where he's been asked about that. What he seems to be the mantra is that he keeps saying Nathan Patterson's doing well, but I think, as Gav pointed out in the previous podcast, club paid quite a lot of money for him. Came with quite the reputation at Rangers, even though he couldn't get a game there because it was at Tavernier there. The club captain was established, but they still really rated him, and Everton sort of saw him as the long-term successor to Seamus Coleman. There's been a few sort of ones who haven't taken up that mantle ultimately, but that was the feeling. But Dyche always points out that Young is the experienced pro out of the two. So I don't know, maybe in another decade or so, Nathan Patterson might have enough experience to be to warrant a start. I mean, it is a bit of a strange one, really, but for whatever reason, manager doesn't seem to overly fancy him, and you've also got to throw into the mix the fact that club captain Seamus Coleman's now back fit again, so potentially he could come in at the side at some point. And does that mean Patterson moves even further down the pecking order? I mean, only Sean Dyche can truly answer that one. But to be fair, I think he has been asked about that, and he just points to that Patterson's doing well and have to sort of wait for his chance.
Thanks for the question there from Two Wheel Lucas on the Royal Blue YouTube channel. I mean, Chris, just to stay with that before I come on to James Garner with Paul, it's an interesting one, is it, the Young dynamic, because Patterson seems to be Dyche's go-to sub virtually every single game, and to me it's almost like a wasted sub to an extent. So Young's usually picks up a booking, and it's to the point where he thinks we've got to take Young off as a replacement to bring someone on who's not going to be sent off. I mean, the amount of times that's potentially happened this season, it's been quite a lot. So is that something? Is it a wasted sub, or I don't know?
I suppose with Dyche, it's not like he goes crazy with the subs, so maybe you can afford that. He doesn't sense a waste on what he tends to do, doesn't he? He uses all his subs when it doesn't matter. Say like it was Manchester United and the game had sort of gone away from them. He was chucking them all on them, whereas if it was tight, like it was a Forest, he only brought Shamiti on towards the end for Beto. I mean, personally, I can see what Ashley Young brings, and I know he's a trusted lieutenant for Sean Dyche. I mean, he's old enough, so he's even played in the same team as Sean Dyche back when he was a teenager at Watford. So he's someone he's known a long time. We trust him as a player and as an individual. And we know that Patterson still isn't the finished article, but like we said, in the way that the pair of them dovetail or don't with Jack Harrison, I think like a lot of people out there watching Everton, it's a bit of a head scratcher why Patterson isn't getting more minutes. I know that he still remains a bit suspect when it comes to defending, but I mean, so's Ashley Young at times. I mean, that's been the problem. At the end of the day, he's a converted winger who sort of moved back the field the further he's gone down in his career, whereas at least Patterson is a natural right back, and that's the way he's been schooled from quite a young age. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably as perplexed as anyone. I'm not throwing Young under the bus here, but there's been quite a lot of instances there. There's even one on Saturday, I think he gave a free kick away early on. We brought Alanga down, and although he sort of weathered the storm somewhat, I think there was another incident in the second half when he got exposed one-on-one with Alanga, and my heart was in the mouth for a minute. So, yeah, it's a strange one, and I'm just as sort of bemused by it as a lot of people, really.
Okay, moving on to our third player then, of a player in focus, Paul. James Garner, player of the match, I think. Another fantastic midfield performance, and probably fast becoming Everton's midfield leader.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think he was one of the players you gave 8 out of 10, Chris, wasn't it? On your player ratings of the 6th of them. I thought it was one of the best performances we've seen from James Garner in an Everton shirt. I think there's bigger fans of James Garner than me. I really like him, but I think I was waiting for a performance like that on Saturday, whether he was inspired by, going back to his former club, Nottingham Forest, but I thought he really controlled the game. But we can't forget how young he actually is. He's still 21, 22, I believe, so only just come out of the England under 21 setup, hasn't he? So to be doing it in the Premier League at that kind of level it bodes really well and really promising for his Everton career. I read an interview with him on the club website last night, and he said it was his best performance of his Everton career. He said that himself. It was quite interesting to read that. I think there was only Pickford, Tarkowski and Decore who's played more minutes for Everton this season. He's become such a reliable and go-to player for Sean Dyche. I know for a long time you were wondering where his best position would be, but I think it's a case now that it's probably James Garner and another between Idrissa Gueye and Amadou Onana when he's back fit. So that's that's credit to him for the way he's playing. Who knows whether we're going to have money to spend in January. You'd hope we'd certainly have money to spend next summer, but he's probably the kind of ideal kind of signing that we've got to go for now, isn't it? He's young, he's talented, and I hate to say this, but he's probably got a lot of resale value as well if he was to probably truly realise his potential. But yeah, I thought he was outstanding on Saturday. Best performance for Ian Everton shirt.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gav, that was kind of my next question that Paul just touched on there. What is Everton's best midfield duo or trio, whatever way you want to look at it?
Onana and Garner. James Garner, that is, I think. Although Garner Gaye's had 2 or 3 really good games, hasn't he? To be fair. But I think Onana gives us something that the other two haven't got, which is, I think, a more physical presence, bit of pace, bit of dynamism that Garner and Garner Gaye don't possess. And when those two play together, they're quite similar in some respects. So it's an Onana and Garner for me, but I'm comforted by the fact that Garner Gaye, in his last year's contract, he could have taken it easy. He's done well over the last few games. Maybe he's looking to for another year, possibly. But yeah, I think it's an Onana and Garner. I think, I know in the Man United game, you missed an Onana's physical presence, I think, and the ability to get the ball up the pitch from the middle, which I don't think the other two have got in them in terms of running the opposition. So yeah, it's those two. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why I think we struggle a little bit at home. Is like James Garner particularly. You can just sit in, can't you, away from home, and you don't have to. You don't have to control the game. You can just react. I think at home, when you've got to be a little bit more proactive, and show that little bit of extra, and take control of the game. I think that's something that he's learning. I think that's something that he needs to do. He needs to dominate the game a little bit more at home, and that's what I'd be looking for him to do over the next couple of games in terms of to make a bit more of an impact at Goodison than perhaps he has done previously. I'm just thinking at the top of my head there, Chris, you go away from home. He's another one who's been far better for us away from Goodison than what he's been at Goodison, possibly.
Yeah, like you say, Gav, it's probably for those reasons. I remember I was actually speaking. I thought that James Garner actually improved a lot. Second half, he was good. First half, but I thought he was a lot better even second half. But Ian Snowden was saying to me, and let's remember, Ian Snowden's part of Everton's last title-winning team and playing central midfield himself at that point of his career. He was waxing lyrical about James Garner's performance. He thought he was doing really well. So I suppose someone like Snod's giving you the thumbs up. I mean, that's all you need to know. And it's all well and good, us saying he's done well, but when you got a title-winning Everton central midfielder giving you those plaudits when you really didn't know you are doing well.
Ironically, I thought his best performance this season came at home to Bournemouth when we won, and then I think in my head it was the derby the following week, and it was like Dyche best not change this team, and Garner best be in that derby team. And obviously Liverpool's a different kettle of fish, but he didn't have the greatest impact in that derby game. But we all know what happened in that. But Paul, I mean, is it? Don't want to put too much pressure on him already, but is he a future Everton captain candidate?
Maybe like to see a bit more leadership from him, and really get a grip of the game in the neck. But he could be if not captain, he certainly could be the future of Everton's midfield, because, as Gav said there, just a guy. I think he's playing well enough to get another contract. Given the amount of players we've got out of contract next summer, and given the kind of situation we're in off the field, it might be worth giving him another year. But you wonder whether Amadou Onana, the noises he's made in the past while away on international duty, suggest that he could be a player who moves on in the not too distant future. Yeah, why not? That's an ambitious for what he should be to be aiming for, really. I like the way he speaks. I think he shows a lot of maturity, and I think he shows maturity on the pitch. Eventually, I suppose we're going to have to look for a new captain, aren't we? Because Chambers can't go on forever. James Tarkowski's still, I imagine, got a few years left, but he is the wrong side of 30 now. So, yeah, why not aim for something like that? But, yeah, I'm really pleased with his development. We only seen little bits of him, didn't we, before he picked up that injury towards the end of Frank Lampard's tenure. But, yeah, as I said earlier, he's just become such a key player for Sean Dyche now, and maybe that is the next stage, dominate games even more, show that kind of leadership and kind of become a captain for Everton.
Absolutely. And before we move on, Chris, a question on the Royal Blue YouTube channel, Satoshi Corner. This is just referring to Young and Patterson. It's more of a statement than a question, so probably whether you agree or disagree. Young is okay away from home, but at home Patterson needs to start as our home form is bad, and we need to give Harrison more attack and help.
It's probably a fair shout, isn't it? Because Patterson gives you so much energy going up and down the wing, so maybe that could be the key for home and away, mix them up. I mean, that seems to be the thing, doesn't it? Rightly or wrongly with Sean Dyche. Like we've discussed already, he keeps that settled team, but maybe that would be something to sort of mix things up. They're getting the results away from home, maybe keep Young in and stick Patterson in for the home games. I mean, don't know about as black and white as that, or as, there's just one in for one game and one in for the other, whether he'd do that. But it's certainly a fair observation. It might be something they need to do to improve that home form.
Okay. Just a reminder to the people listening live or watching live, on the Echoes Everton FC Facebook page and the Echoes Royal Blue YouTube channel. Get your comments in. I will get through as many as possible. We have got a question from Jimmy Lloyd. So Jimmy's had that submitted from the past couple of minutes. I will come to that. But Gav, I'll come on to you for this next topic. Just not really any major incidents in our game with refs and VAR. It kind of went off without any major incident. But there was a couple of talking points. So we will come on to it. Referee decision, there was a handball just before Beto, but kind of ballooned the ball over the bar. Was it, in your opinion, was that a penalty or no penalty?
There was three players jumping for the same ball there, wasn't it? I think it was a little bit, would have been a little bit harsh. I mean, but it's easy to say that when you've won, isn't it? These things in that respect. They got beat 1-0 and may have had a completely different view, but I remember thinking at the time I didn't really think that was a penalty, to be honest with you. Others may have a different viewpoint, but I'm not sure. There was arms and legs and heads flailing around all over the place there, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, Steve Cooper, Nottingham Forest manager, had a bit of a moan after the game. Obviously his team lost, so he's not going to be happy, of course he's going to have a moan, but he was talking about the incident where VAR very quickly looked at and waved away the incident involving Alfred Corday and Ryan Yates. I'll be honest with you, my heart was in my mouth a little bit. He was holding on, wasn't he, to Corday? Penalty or no penalty? Did Steve Cooper have an argument?
I like Steve Cooper, done a great job, and he probably does have an argument, particularly given the penalty that did he not get the week before? It was given against him the week before, but he likes a moan. Like I know all managers do. Steve Cooper likes a moan, so maybe he was moaning so much that the ref just got sick of him and didn't want to give anything. I know he probably wasn't asked about the Felipe, how he escaped a second yellow card. Yet another player against Everton who's escaped a second yellow card, or Garnacho the week before escaping a booking, in the first half, just begging belief. But take my biased glasses off. I think that's a good shout for a penalty. I know when you slow down these replays, a tug on the shirt can look worse than it was. But the Corey did have a good hold of their lad, so I think we got away with one a little bit there. But as I say, later on in the game, no question in my mind that Forest should have been reduced to 10 men. So. Yeah, Cooper's got a point, but maybe he moaned so much, maybe it went against him this time round.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, we've got Paul's conclusion on that one. Felipe, that was my next question. There's been a couple of incidents over the past couple of weeks where you could almost describe them as minor incidents that have major impact on the game, but it's quite clearly it should have seen a second yellow there, shouldn't he? The Forest player Felipe for a red card.
Yeah, it keeps happening, doesn't it? Like we say, it might sound innocuous, right? Oh, he escaped a second booking, but like we said, after what we saw with Ashley Young in the derby, and then Canate not to get it. Okay, this wasn't a Merseyside derby, and it didn't stop Everton from winning. But yeah, where's it all end? Just want to have that consistency from referees, innit? Whether it goes one way or the other. So just where where you stand, I must admit, in terms of. I think was it the Corey with the handball I've seen him given for that one. I was a bit. I thought it wasn't a million miles away from what happened with Michael Keane in the derby at Anfield. But yeah, let's say it might sound innocuous, but it's just like one way or the other. I mean, one of the main things that Forest were moaning about with more the fans actually was Sean Dyche coming out with his technical area. Got these huge technical areas at Forest. I don't think there are I think maybe there's a minimum size requirement that they have to be or something, but I don't know about the maximum. They've got these huge territories, and Dyche was like even sort of going beyond that, and they were all telling him to sit down, and they've absolutely giving him dogs abuse. Whereas actually Cooper's assistant who ended up getting book turned by Paul Tierney, so that was quite amusing. But yeah, you just want that consistency, and like we say, yeah, it's another one. Okay, it'll get glossed over because Everton won the game, and it wasn't the Merseyside derby, but it's the same idea, isn't it? It's happened again.
Absolutely. Okay, then moving on, still sticking with VAR, but totally unrelated incident to do with Everton, and I'll go around the table. But this was obviously a major talking point from the City and Spurs game over the weekend. I don't know if you watched it. I was actually watching the game, and then I was at a family doing it. The telly got turned off, so I was absolutely gutted. But I missed this incident. Watched it back. Simon Hooper showed advantage for City. Haaland seemingly fouled, played the advantage. Then Grealish threw ball 1-on-1, but then the referee called it back. What was going on?
Do you want me to explain? I haven't got a clue. I did see it. Yeah, absolutely. I was watching it live. I have heard the theory given that he blew up for the foul originally on Haaland, not expecting Haaland to get back up, and then Haaland then took what he thought was the free kick or whatever too quickly. And then, obviously he blew up again for that reason. That's what I've heard. That he explained his action. I'm not sure whether that's right or not. But irrespective of that, it was all a bit bizarre, wasn't it? Really.
You just feel a bit aggrieved.
Yeah, but that's to be fair. City have had a few like that over the years in their favour, so I'm not really going to. Complain about that, and I think Spurs deserved a draw on the day anyway, to be honest with you. But it was all a bit odd, wasn't it? Really, the only explanation is the one I've just heard, but I've not heard that confirmed by anybody. But yeah, it was odd. It wasn't really a VAR, was it? Really, I think was it? But it was just you don't see many like them, do you? I mean, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen anything like that before, where it. You've blown up, and there's an obvious advantage having, from where the play's going. Yeah, it was a bit odd.
Yeah, I think it was more of an on-field decision rather than a check or a VAR review.
Yeah,
I mean, Chris, after watching it back, quite clearly the referee doesn't blow the whistle to give the foul, and then does blow the whistle as soon as Grealish is 1-on-1 with the keeper, albeit one or two Tottenham defenders chasing him. There was no guarantees he was going to score, but can you imagine if that was at Goodison Park with Dominic Calvert-Lewin through on goal and a referee had stopped play with the posts in the sights?
I can well imagine it. Wasn't the one, was it against Manchester United when David Moyes ended up running onto the pitch after the game, wasn't it? Were they about to score or something and the ref blew for full time?
That was the 3-3, that wasn't it? Where we scored twice in injury time to make it 3-3, and Jagielka, similar to that, Grealish had a run on goal, but there was Manchester United players by him, and it was our old friend Martin Atkinson, I think, wasn't it, who blew up, and it was not just David Moyes, it was Steve Round, wasn't it, who ended up getting a mighty fine. Each, I think. So yeah, there's a little bit of a precedent.
So going back to City, Maybe this is how the Premier League are getting back now. It's too difficult to investigate these 115 charges over 8 or 9 years. Chip away at them like this with all these little decisions. I mean, there you go. And who's the winner and all that? I don't know. Liverpool. If there was an example of play the advantage, it had to be that one, didn't it? For going what Gav might have heard, and I don't know about the early whistle. That obviously changes things, doesn't it? But yeah, if there wasn't the early whistle, the first one, that if you go a textbook example, say this is written as an instance where you should play an advantage. You could roll out that clip, couldn't you? When Isabella Grealish is at one-on-one with the keeper. So yeah, I mean, Big Ange typically said that at this great game of football that they've had shouldn't have been defined by that moment. But ultimately it had to be. Yeah. So yeah, if ever there's an example of when an advantage should have been used, that was it. But like I said, maybe it's all a very subtle conspiracy just to start stopping from City from having to. I mean, it's much easier, isn't it? Just do a few dodgy decisions on them like that rather than investigate all those charges.
Controversial opinion then, Paul, from Chris Beesley there. But I did see a couple of sources on that reliable social media platform, Twitter, suggesting that the referee just didn't want to keep up with play and thought, I'll blow the whistle to bring it back. Is that something that could have happened? Probably not. Probably something that we'll never know.
At least it was just a good old-fashioned cock-up by a referee, wasn't it? You get sick of all this VAR stuff, kind of like drawing the lines. This was just a howler from the referee. It was really before about him. He's not been stood down by the Premier League. He's taken charge of Liverpool's game on Wednesday against Sheffield United. So they clearly don't think I don't know if they don't think he's done anything wrong, but they don't think it was a serious error. Even though if I was a Man City fan, I'd certainly think it was a serious error. He's had a bit of a tough season. He was the ref for the Liverpool Tottenham game at Tottenham, where the VAR completely messed up, didn't he, with that Diaz goal? And I think he was the one who went over to the screen when Wolves should have had a penalty at Man United earlier in the season. So Simon Hubert is having a tough spell. You'd have to ask him. You'd have to ask him why he decided to blow up at that stage. Maybe the reason that he thought Haaland was going to go down and he wouldn't get back up. But you would be absolutely livid if you were Haaland, and I think he's come out and said as much to Haaland, and you'd be livid if you were Guardiola, you'd be livid if you were City fans as well. But yeah, just a human error. That one, wasn't it? But it was a big one. And looking at how tight it is at the top of the Premier League, who knows? It might be crucial.
The funniest thing about it for me is when the cameras turned to Guardiola, absolutely leathering the fourth official, and the fourth official's eyes just rolling, and just couldn't quite believe the decision that was made. But yeah, I just thought I'd add an interesting, unrelated topic into the Everton Royal Blue podcast today, just to throw a curveball in there. But let's just pick back up on the final word on Forest then before we kind of move on. Gav, a lot of doom and gloom following the United defeat, probably a little bit justified, but did the negativity really come from probably not the performance, but was it because Luton and Bournemouth both picked up unexpected points? Certainly Luton definitely picked up unexpected points. We touched upon it a little bit earlier, but it seemed to me that once those results came in on Saturday, my nerves kind of shot up there, and I thought, we're playing Manchester United here, regardless of what people are saying about them. These are still a very good team, but obviously now we bounced back with a Forest win.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of results. What was the results on Saturday before we played? Burnley won, didn't they? But they trounced Sheffield United, and Luton got beat. Yeah, didn't they? At Brentford, and so there's two teams who've lost in and around you. So I'm not sure about negativity after the United game, to be honest with you. It was more frustrating that we'd had 3 or 4 good chances before half time, and then didn't really press as much as what we should have done in the second half. So I think that there was some positives to decide. So, and there was a little bit of difference on Saturday that there was, especially with Luton getting beaten, they're the team that was sort of chasing, aren't we? Brentford and Neil Maupay, did us a favour. And so I think it was different. It was different going into the Forest game, and we said on Friday it was a big game. It wasn't, bearing in mind our home fixtures between now and Christmas, it was something that we needed to get something from. But the most pleasing thing for me was the performance. It certainly wasn't a smash and grab. It was a game where we had lots of possession for for long periods of time, both in the first half and second half. So I was well pleased.
And Chris, does the result against Forest now kind of cement that Everton are in a bit of a false position? You know, certainly based on form.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that I took most comfort from, the way they set their stall out, the way that they did play. A lot of pressure on them there to get that first result after the points deduction. And let's not forget, as we said, that 5-0 thrashing for Burnley against Sheffield United. That, you know, psychologically, Everton moved to bottom of the table going into that game. But, you know, they didn't. We know they're not a bottom of the table team in terms of the form. I think only Tottenham Hotspur have actually won more points away from home this season in terms of their performances on the pitch and what they've actually achieved as a team. So, yeah, they looked comfortable. They looked assured. Everything, you know, that you would expect that they have been. They know that they're no great shakes, but they are, you know, a mid-table team based on results this season. And they went to Forest under that great pressure. They knew they needed that big result. But there didn't seem to be nerves. We've talked about Beto, could have done with a bit more composure at time. We've got to say before finish as well, Dwight McNeil. I mean, the way he struck that ball, that's what he's capable of. Last season's top scorer, albeit only with 7, but that was his first goal this season, and Everton really been missing that. So return of the Mac, as it was, and what a way to get back onto the score sheet, and hopefully, because I think he scored 5 in about couple of months in the back end of last season after he got the first one under Dyche against Brentford, that hopefully set him off on another purple patch perhaps in this busy festive season. So yeah, it's another big plus point. I mean, it was a great strike to win the game and thoroughly deserved.
So we're coming up to the hour mark, but we did start a little bit late, so I'm happy, as long as the lads are happy to carry on, to go into injury time. And before we do move on to the FA Cup draw, Paul, there's a question that I mentioned from Jimmy Lloyd. It's not really a question, again, it's more of a statement, but whether you agree or not, it goes back to the Calvert-Lewin, Beto scenario, and, you know, do they both start or should one come in for another? Jimmy Lloyd has said maybe if Dyche had given him more minutes before the Forest game, he not only settling quicker, but Calvert-Lewin probably wouldn't have broke down. Do you agree with that statement? I kind of don't, to be honest, but thanks for the question, Jimmy. But Paul, what do you think on that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. He's having to come in cold, isn't he? Because before Saturday, Calvert-Lewin was not just playing; he was playing for 80 minutes plus, wasn't he? And probably the harsh reality for Beto is that we need Calvert-Lewin on the pitch for 80 minutes plus every week. We're a better team with him, better team with him than Beto at this moment in time. And, you know, even though we will eventually pay a big fee for Beto, it's a different standard of football. It's a different type of football from what he's probably been experiences in Italy. So I do know where Jimmy's coming from there. Yeah, it's going to be hard for him, you know, coming in quite rusty, coming in from the cold, but hopefully on Saturday playing 80 odd minutes before coming off for Schmidt would have done him the world of good. But at the same time, I hope come Thursday he's probably back on the bench, and that's again nothing against Beto. I'm not being harsh to him there, but I just want Calvert-Lewin back in the team. But yeah, I do know where Jimmy's coming from there.
So is Jimmy one of the dogs of war there? Did you see his picture?
Let's get it back up.
Wasn't sure, that wasn't the dog who got carried through the streets outside Goodison last season, was it?
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, just staying with that, Paul, with Calvert-Lewin having the run of games that he's had, he's probably been, this is the best he's ever been managed under an Everton manager. You know, the consistency. I know he has been injured. You know, we're expecting hopefully him to come back, but quite clearly he's being managed properly now.
Oh, absolutely, mate. He's had different stages of his Everton career, Calvert-Lewin, wasn't he? He was in his early days. He probably wasn't too dissimilar from where Beto is now. You know, a lot of work rate, a lot of work outside the box, a lot of giving defenders, roughing up defenders, giving them a game. But there was that lack of finishing, and then Ancelotti came in, and then he became this penalty box poacher. But you can't forget back then he had some absolutely brilliant talent around him, Rodriguez, Richarlison, just to name two. But what I've seen of him certainly this season, since he's come back after that Villa game, it looks the most complete Dominic Calvert-Lewin I've seen from him for Everton. I think you're right, mate. I think Dyche has managed him absolutely brilliantly. It took a lot of guts to keep him out of the side. Certainly last season, it took a lot of guts after the Villa injury earlier this season not to rush him back. So if he felt and Dominic felt that he needed a weekend off this weekend, so be it. Got to trust the manager on this one, and just hopefully he's all right for Thursday against Newcastle.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on then, Gav. We are coming to the end of the pod, but we will finish off with a couple of little tidbits. So Everton have been drawn against Premier League side Crystal Palace, third round of the FA Cup. Not the best draw, not the worst. We've obviously had a decent result against Crystal Palace away already this season. Just your initial reaction to that?
We've had a lot of away draws, haven't we, in cup competitions in recent times? Is that fair on the spin? Away from home in the FA Cup, we very rarely play at home in the League Cup, do we? Mind you, we very rarely play in the League Cup full stop, do we? To be honest with you, given our record. Rather sadly, and I actually remember our previous third round visit to Selhurst Park in the FA Cup, which was 51 years ago. And if it's as interesting and as competitive as that was, because they had to get on the tannoy to tell the spectators and players to calm down, otherwise they'd stop the game. It would be Chris will have his more than his 800 words. We need more than that, I think, to describe the action. But yeah, it's setting that aside. So it was that tough. Talk about controversy, and Tommy Dawes, I think, was the referee, had to be driven out of the car, and the Crystal Palace chairman's in the boot of his car after the game. So it was pretty brutal stuff. But yeah, it was a tough draw, and it could have done with a nice home draw, which we've not really had a lot of in cup competitions, have we?
Absolutely. And Chris, it's probably a bit of a rarity that Everton still find themselves in two cup competitions at this stage of the year. So we've got a massive game at Goodison Park under the lights against Fulham in the League Cup quarter-final just before Christmas. If we are to be successful in that tie and progress to the semi-final, do you think Sean Dyche will then prioritise the League Cup over the FA Cup?
I don't see Dyche being one of these managers who will sort of name a weakened team, as it were. It's a rotten draw, by the way. Certainly is. For all the speckies who went down there only on the 11th of November, going back down. You don't want an FA Cup third round. You don't want another Premier League team, full stop. So you don't want to go back to one who you only just played a few weeks ago. And, furthest flung part of London as well, not the easiest one to get to. So on so many levels, it's a bad draw. Personally, we'd have liked to have just gone somewhere maybe had not been to before. But in terms of his selection, I think there's no sort of New Year's game, is there? I don't think this year. Yeah, they go to Wolves on the 30th of December, and then they've got a week before this game and a week before another. I don't know where the potential Carabao Cup semi would fit in there, but no, obviously the Carabao Cup kind of does take priority if you're through to the semi-finals of that. But thankfully, and I go along with Dyche on this one, he's not one of these managers. Obviously Frank Lampard made 11 changes for that Carabao Cup defeat at Bournemouth last season, and that was the beginning of the end for Lampard. But no, I can understand what you mean. That Carabao Cup takes priority if you get to the semis, but I'd still imagine that regardless, he'd name a pretty strong team for this Crystal Palace tie. And like we said before, he just hasn't got that many options anyway. It's not like you can chuck half the team out anyway and have a sort of a side that's anywhere at the same sort of level. So, yeah, he might shuffle the pack a little bit, but I'd still imagine him to name a strong team. And, why not go try and get to Wembley on two different fronts? People obviously say with a 10-point deduction, Premier League survival rightly takes priority now, but the Cups can sort of help you bounce along with stuff like that and keep the momentum up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a 2-week break in January as well? Sorry, Ian. Is there a 2-week break for the Premier League in January?
I think ours is after Villa, isn't it, on 14th of January? But
I
imagine the semi-final should be around that time.
Yeah, I think we'll obviously be looking forward to that break. But Paul, we're sitting here now saying that it's not the best draw away from home, Crystal Palace. But if you actually look at the facts, our away form is one of the best in the league. We've already beat Crystal Palace away from home this season in what turned out to be an absolutely fantastic game, 5-goal thriller. So they're probably saying the exact same thing, really.
Oh yeah, it's not a nice draw for the supporters having to go all the way down there just after Christmas and New Year, and as you say, it's the time we've already been there. So, but yeah, if Sean Dyche decides to go strong, there's no reason why we can't go there and win. I think a big question will just be what the state of our squad looks like at that stage after probably 8 or 9 games before then, haven't we, before we get to that match in terms of injuries. And I think it will be a key consideration for him if we are in the semi-finals, because I'm pretty sure the first leg maybe after that game and then the second leg's later in January. So even though I'm like Chris, I don't believe Sean Dyche would probably ever do a Frank Lampard and make 11 changes, and I don't like that personally myself. Managers doing that, but I think if we had a semi-final around that time, and obviously we'll still be in unless anything changes with the points deduction, we'll still be in a relegation fight at that time. If we have to prioritise a cup semi-final, I'd have to go along with that. But yeah, if we're not in the cup semi-final, or if the squad's looking strong at that point, why not go there and win? Because we're seeing this season with the points deduction or not, cup competitions, it's a fantastic way of keeping the season going, isn't it? We've not done it enough in recent years. So yeah, if we're in a position to go strong that day, let's go for it and try and get through to the 4th round.
Yeah, absolutely. So Everton have started a mammoth month with a bang. Up next is Newcastle under the lights at Goodison Park. 7:30 kickoff. I'm going to finish off now, but stick with us this week for a schedule of shows from 12 till 1, live on the Royal Blue YouTube channel and the Echoes Everton FC Facebook page. Please remember to like, follow and share and subscribe all of our content, and stick with us to the Echoes website and social channel for all the latest news and developments. Plenty more to come. Gav, Paul, Chris, thanks for joining us. We have gone 9 minutes into injury time now, so I do think that is probably time to blow the final whistle on proceedings. But guys, thanks very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.